The date's August 26th. It's been about 100 degrees for the last week or so. Weather finally broke. It's, I don't know, 85, 86 degrees, which feels way better. Still not perfect, but that's part of the game. Finally headed back in to pull my cameras that I soaked in the previous video in the spring. Step one is, are they still there? It's always a question on public land. And then obviously, what's on it, you know? Little tip, if you're gonna walk through the woods this time of year, I highly suggest permethrin. I used to do this before I started wearing that stuff, and I just dealt with chiggers. But yeah, so I'm headed in. Got about, I don't know, about a mile walk to each camera. I got 4 to pull, so, you know, 8 miles. But pretty sure that's where the deer are. So I don't know. I'll edit and look through and show you what I come up with. Wish me luck. Well, the first one's still there, so that's pretty dope. And it's pretty deep back here. Turned my tracker on. It's actually like 2.2 miles from the road. Walked past a lot of pretty good looking stuff up there, but my spring scouting tells me this is where the sign was, especially rut sign. So basically the way it sets up is right here. It's pitches down with a river right here with a bunch of private over here. It's in beans this year, which I really like, which means they're probably not bedded in the beans or in corn. They're traveling to the beans, so that's always good. Up here, there's quite a few ladder stands on this private piece that I saw with binos in the spring. I try to stay away from those. Those are about half mile this way. I'm way back in here. This is like an elk pack out. I kill a deer in here. I'm not dragging it. We're taking them out in pieces, but I really like the way this sets up. All of these ridges come off. I'm assuming there's deer bedded up behind me on the tops of these ridges, wind blowing over their back. I could slide up this river and slide into one of these trees, but we'll find out what the camera tells us. Hopefully there's still some battery life in it, but it's still here, so that's a win. I don't know. We'll see. I'll show you. Camera number 2, still intact. Man, we're winning today, folks. I don't care what's on the cameras. At least my money's leaving the woods, feel me? On to the next. What I really like about this piece is this is what the entrance to this looks like. It's kind of unmarked from the road. I mean, everybody uses Onyx these days, so I mean, I'm sure I'm not the only one that knows about it, obviously. But with that being said, I do like the fact that it's kind of secluded and hard to get to. Might keep some other people out. Plus, I mean, it's nothing but crop fields. We're going up on top of the ridge, so see you in a bit. That's a beautiful sight. 3 for 3. Wow. Kind of figured this one would be safe, because I mean, only a crazy person would walk through that fortress that I just walked through. Only a crazy person. That's me. I'm the crazy person. 3 for 3, baby. 3 for 3. Let's go. So I was able to pull those 3 cameras the other night. Ran out of daylight. I was able to flip through those cameras. I got one really hot camera. I'll show you at the end of the video, but I got Josh with me. Say hi, Josh.
Hey.
It's Josh's first year behind the bow, so figured maybe I'd put him up on a couple spots. We're going to the backside of this duck marsh, pull a camera that's been soaking since February, I think. I'm gonna show him a couple trees I've hunted out of, kind of give him a jumping off point. That way, he's kind of got an idea of kind of how deer move through the property, which is what I'm really trying to do with these cameras, is figure out, yeah, I want to see bucks, but I want to know, are deer freaking in that property? How we got does, that kind of thing. But anyway, so we're headed back here to mark a couple trees and pull a cam. Hopefully it's still there. Walking Josh through here back to this camera, and Took him to what I thought was suspected bedding, and I don't know if the camera's picking it up well, but we just walked through about 30 beds behind us, and I'd say we've got, what do you think, man, 10, 15 in front of us?
Easily.
So we know where they're sleeping early. I know it'll change when the vegetation changes, but this is what we're hunting. But we're hunting over there and back behind the camera. We just thought we'd run through here one time, give them a month to settle back down, come in and run one through them. After losing my bearing like 7 times, because this shit is thicker than thick now. It wasn't like this in the fall or in the spring, I can guarantee you that. Finally found it. That's 4 for 4. He probably thinks I have a death wish. Falling on my ass, looking at my phone at the same time. It's thick in here, but we walked through so many beds. I'm pretty excited that that's still here and to see what's on it. Well, as you can see in the video, I was very happy to get all 4 of my cameras back. That's always step one. That's a win. When you photo scout like this, especially in Missouri, I gave up on this strategy for a while because I would plant 5, 6, sometimes even 7 cameras. Most of those years I was lucky to get 2 of them back. This year I only planted 4 because one of them was a piece that I was fairly familiar with, but I was diving in deeper. It's a very large acreage. Wanted to get closer to the swamp. Had never really laid eyes on it. Decided to soak one there because the sign told me to. And the other 3 pieces were pretty new. I've been in on them, turkey hunted on them, shed hunted on them, but never really bow hunted them. So I decided to plant cameras to check those out. If you're gonna photo scout like this in order to keep your cameras, I highly suggest you get them high off the ground, get them out of eyes view. It's a sad fact. Not everybody is honorable. They will take your things, so do the best you can to protect them. But this year, all my money came out of the woods, so that's awesome. With that being said, with these cameras, I am after going through the photos and the battery life and the lack of false reaction to the camera, that type of thing. I'm very impressed with these stealth cams. This is my first year running these. I've done wild game innovations before, a lot of false triggers, a lot of that type of thing. I don't get a lot of that out of these from what I'm seeing on these cameras. So if you're looking for a budget-friendly camera that, you know, if you're willing to lose the 30 bucks or 40 bucks for each camera, depending on which camera you go with, I think this is a great option. I'm really happy with what I found on the cameras. First 2 cameras I pulled, one of them was looking very good for about 2 months. I got some direction of travel, and we'll get into what I'm trying to pull out of these here in a minute, but I had about 1.5 to 2 months out of one camera, and then I had a selfie of a raccoon that decided to turn my camera to the sky, so every time the tree moved I got a picture of that, and it ran out of battery quick. That brings me to my next point. When you want to strap these to the tree, strap them as tight as you can, because raccoons find them, they play with them. Trash pandas are cool, but they're assholes. So he cost me some battery life, but I did get some intel on that. I got some direction of travel on deer. I also got, in that short amount of time, quite a few hunters on that camera, which tells me that piece probably gets pounded pretty hard. So I took that into account. The second camera that I got had some false triggers, but that was my own fault. There was a branch in front of the camera I should have cleared, and there were some leaves in front of it. I got about 4 months out of that camera. Got some decent growth on some bucks. Couldn't really tell how big they got because we didn't make it all the way to August. Then the third camera I pulled was probably the greatest trail cam pull I've ever had. The concentration of deer and the concentration of solid bucks, and this camera was on a very blank tree. No growth in front of it, never got messed with by a raccoon or other wildlife. So when I pulled that camera, it was still running, which is pretty incredible considering the amount of pictures that I had on this camera, and the amount of bucks I had in one concentrated area, and that's what I'm looking for. If I have many bucks, I counted 21 different bucks that I would probably shoot if I had the opportunity. There might be more, but if I didn't have a differentiating feature, sometimes an 8-point's an 8-point, and you can't find a differentiating feature, especially in velvet, I count that as 1 buck. But bucks on it almost every day, deer on it definitely every day. Concentration of does, fawns. I mean, the greatest trail camera pull I've ever had, hands down on public land. So that tells me, and everything was broadside, everything was headed to my hunch of food to bed, noted times, how close am I to bed, how close am I to food. Honestly, where I hung that trail camera is my kill tree. That's where I'm going to start off. What I do with these cameras is I plant them, and I take note of what I'm seeing on those cameras. I'm really looking for direction of travel and how late in the, or how early in the evening and how late in the morning am I seeing that direction of travel. If it's later in the morning, I feel like I'm closer to bed. If it's earlier in the evening, I feel like I'm closer to bed, and that's what I want to know. Where are they sleeping and where are they eating? My trail cam strategy is only early season. I am just trying to find out what I can do in the first 3 weeks to a month of the season. As soon as everything starts to fall, beans start to turn yellow, everything kind of changes. What I'm looking for is a starting point here, taking notes of what I'm seeing on the camera and then adjusting from there. Hunting public land is consistently adjusting to what you're seeing, whether that be hunter pressure, whether that be acorns started dropping and I know where the oaks are. This is my starting off point. That trail cam pull, I will start opening day in that tree. One of the biggest bucks I've ever seen on public land in Iowa was on this trail cam pull, and it was not very long ago, so I'm pretty excited about that. But I won't get hung up on a particular deer. I've learned my lesson on that in the past. It's tough. I'm probably not the only guy that knows about him. Things bounce around, but the concentration of bucks on that tree, that's my jumping off point. Also, I planted one on a piece that I'm always in, that I've been hunting since I got here. Killed a couple bucks out of this spot. Actually, one buck, multiple does. Kind of handed that off to Josh in a certain way, and it's so awesome to have him. His first year behind the bow. I love giving somebody a starting point, kind of giving them some tips and maybe some trees that they can start off and then grow from there. And then once they kill their first deer, all bets are off, and now I just talk trash, and that's where it's at. Welcome to the game, Josh. It's good to have you, man. And then that trail cam's cool. That trail cam's in a flood area. I don't have a ton of bucks on that camera, but the cool thing about that is it's one of the coolest trail cam pulls I've ever pulled. I got coyotes chasing fawns. I got it flooded. I've got ducks and deer in the same picture. It's just it was an ever-changing landscape, and that's one of the cool things about it. If you can get your camera back and it's soaked for 4 months, if you're a guy that likes nature, you have a photo study of what that section of woods looks like for 4 months, and it can be pretty cool. Again, the coyotes chasing the fawns thing, I'll take that in a note. I'll throw a coyote call in my pack when I go to that spot because it's obvious to me we have a coyote problem there. And if I'm on a deer hunt and the coyote shows up, we're now on a coyote hunt. I'll shoot every one of those little pricks every time I can. But anyway, it was a good trail cam pull. So stoked to get all my stuff back. I'm really looking forward to this season. I'm starting to figure out Southeast Iowa out a little bit. I'm starting to grow. I've got some permission land. I've got a spot in Illinois I'll be hunting. Obviously, I'll go back home to Missouri. So I'm going to be spread kind of thin, but I'm going to try to hit them all. I got time, and I've got some intel, and I've started to hunt these spots long enough. I've started to understand how deer are using the terrain. I think this year could be one of my best. As soon as I say that, I'll struggle until late November. That's how the game works. But anyway, I hope you enjoyed the video. Here's a little montage. I didn't throw them all up there, but there's some of the bucks I'm looking at. From the kill tree, you'll notice that everything's broadside and everything's headed left to right or right to left. That's a very good sign. It's very easy to figure out what wind to hunt that tree, so that tree's deadly. And that's all I needed. 4 cams gave me 1 jumping off point. So that's a win. Anyway, stay restless. It's almost time. Good luck. Oh, by the way, it's my birthday. Let's go.